There's no denying that in sports entertainment, journalism is a big part of the sport. However, I think for us combat sports fans, whether it's MMA or boxing, I feel that journalism has become more of a social media thing, a social media presence that happens to cover the sport. And for the most part, it's humorous and extremely entertaining, but it has also brought a lot of bullshit. And to be honest, not that it bothers me too much, but a lot of anger. I have a huge problem with the MMA journalism and social media people that cover it. Not too long ago, one of these personalities that goes by the name of the MMA Guru had made a joke, a fat joke, about one of the ladies who was asking questions at a UFC press conference. And listen, guys, the internet is a cruel world that should not be taken seriously. All of us, including myself, have gotten roasted. Take it with a grain of salt, laugh along, and from one day to the next, everybody forgets about it. One of these personalities is Nina Drama. And I'm sure that if you follow the sport of MMA and especially just UFC in general, you most likely know who Nina Drama is. As for myself, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same story with a lot of us, Nina Drama came out of nowhere. One day I woke up and she's all over my algorithm. Her style is to be comical and quirky and ditzy and say and ask silly stuff that only a very, very beautiful woman can get away with. I find it very odd and suspicious. And just so many other things that just don't fit right as to how she got up there. Because it's not just about the algorithm, or maybe a managed team that was able to kind of maneuver her correctly, but also the fact that she was able to enter the UFC circle of media. She's pretty much at the top right now. Dana White loves her. A lot of these fighters love her. It seems that a lot of more serious journalists, what they have worked for and haven't been able to quite achieve, or they walk on eggshells, she doesn't. And she just came in there and took the mantle. What I can also say is that her interviews blew up shortly after interviewing and having a lot of interviews with none other than the controversial Sean Strickland. And for someone who was very open and it stood in the front lines to defend this heavier woman whom MMA Guru decided to make a target out of, I find it funny that she's the one to stand up against bullying. If anything that I've learned in my life, that anything that's published on the internet can be used against you. And her interviews with Sean Strickland are full of this guy just saying the most absurd and inflammatory things. Not saying that I'm a snowflake or other people that find his stuff aggravating. It's just Sean Strickland walks with this arrogance. Right? He speaks down on people. He speaks the truth. Makes fun of fat people. Makes fun of his opponents and their wives. I mean, this guy crosses the line consistently. And this whole time, Nina thinks it's humorous. She laughs about it. She thinks it's comical. Now, I believe that social media presence like Nina and journalists such as MMA Fighting or MMA Junkie, they depend on having these crazy interviews with outlandish things being said in order to generate the revenue, because that's their job. That's how they make their living. Most of these guys, they don't have a second job. This is their job. So in order to generate money, they need a hit video, a sensational clip that people can play over and over and over again on the YouTubes, on the TikToks, on the Instagrams. You guys know how this works, because eventually, once you reach a certain threshold consistently, your paychecks come in. So it's best not to bite the hand that feeds you. Sean Strickland has even made jokes about, with Brandon Shaw, by the way, on Food Truck Diaries, that he believes, like he lived through, kids should get beaten down by their dads. And not just get beaten down because they did something silly or stupid, you know, but a drunken, raged dad beating. I don't find any humor in it. But again, no one calls him out on it because they depend on Sean Strickland to say these things for a lot of us to tune in, and so they can get paid. Don't let it be the common folk like myself, right, Nina? Don't let it be someone like the MMA Guru who you will never collaborate with, so you can't take a piece of the pie from the views on YouTube. Because if we say something, God forbid we say something, we're pieces of shit. We're trash. We're absolute trash and garbage. To continue on, and I will leave links throughout the video, okay? So just keep an eye out for those. She released a video where she is talking directly to the MMA Guru about what a scumbag he is, and that she's have to work so hard for everything that she has in her life, including, and a huge emphasis on, I didn't have to get on my knees or open my legs for anybody to make it where I'm at. In the same video, almost in the same sentence, she says that she's aware she has fine assets. She is a beautiful woman, I will give her that. Whether people disagree or not, when I see Nina, yes, she's gorgeous, I'll give her that. But for someone to say, hey, I know how to use my assets, I know what I have and I know how to use them, and then goes and says, I didn't have to get on my knees though, I didn't have to open my legs. It almost seems like she's trying to convince herself. Don't convince us, convince yourself. And she says it so sassy. It almost seems like an audition to a part for a upcoming AAA budget movie. She says it to the point where I'm like, is this something that maybe we should be investigating? Because if this was some sort of mystery murder movie, the pieces are falling into place. This all starts making sense. There's so many things about Nina that even before all this scandal between her and MMA Guru happened, I had already tuned out. As quickly as I subscribed and enjoyed some of her videos and her quirky humor and energy, I tuned out quick because I realized that her content just strictly, I feel like it's targeted for a young audience who just wants amusement. Those 5-10 minutes of amusement, but there's really nothing solid or importance. There's nothing of importance when she interviews these fighters. And shortly after I tuned out, I started noticing that she has become a branch of the UFC media. Although she might say, hey, I'm independent, I do my own thing, but I feel like this is promotion. These companies do certain things where they'll get certain people to kind of promote for them. It's almost free promotion for the brand, and Nina has become that free promotion for them. I'll give you an example how she uses the fan base that she's been able to build up, a loyal fan base at that, to push a UFC narrative or an agenda. Do you guys remember when Dustin Poirier was first announced to fight Saint Denis? There was a confusion. Do you guys remember that? The UFC was already advertising a fight between Saint Denis and Dustin Poirier, and through media like Twitter or X, Dustin Poirier responded by saying, hey, no one's talked to him about anything. There's no fight going on here. This must have put a lot of pressure on the UFC because everybody was talking about it. Dustin Poirier is such a beloved guy in the sport that when something like that happens, everybody's going to stand up for him like, yeah, they're just trying to push him and corner him into a fight. This is the shady practices of the UFC. Other journalists like Ariel Helwani, and I can't remember this guy's name, but again, I will put it on the description below or on a link. A Latin American journalist pretty much confirmed with Dustin Poirier himself or his management team, and they verified with them. Like, yeah, no one ever came to us. There's no contract signed, no nothing. This MMA media journalist simply reported what was factual. Lo and behold, Dustin Poirier shortly comes out after that. My bad. It was my fault. I should have looked it in further. I should have looked into it better. There is a fight. It's on. Everything's good. What a fucking sellout. Dustin's so beloved that instead of people seeing the things for what they were, it's okay, Dustin, no worries, no worries. We're excited to see you back. And I'm like, what the fuck happened with yesterday? And this gave Dana White all the ammo he needed to start roasting people who jumped the gun, including this Latin American reporter. And here comes Nina drama, like a fucking annoying chihuahua. Get him, Dana, oil them up, get them. When the narrative the whole time should have been like, look, shame on you, Dustin, for speaking out. You should have came to us privately. Shame on Dustin Poirier for misinforming the people, because the source itself, it wasn't a he said, she said thing. It was Dustin himself. So why isn't anybody calling out Dustin for being irresponsible and jumping the gun? Ah, that's right. He can't say much to Dana because Dana White is his boss. And Nina's not going to say anything because she doesn't want to get on Dustin's bad side and risk not ever being able to have an interview with him when a big opportunity, a big time fight happens, like his fight eventually with Islam Makhachev. And we all know why. Big views equals a paycheck. Because I am sure as hell that this is her only source of income right now. It's not like if she clocks into a respectable 9-to-5 job, has a degree as a nurse where she makes most of her money, this is just a side gig. No, she depends on getting interviews with these fighters, so she best not get in their bad side. Absolutely spineless fucking people. And it seems from certain interviews and the context in which they speak, not that she directly says it, just call him the husband, is the camera guy. This woman has no shame, no respect for herself or her relationship. Example, Armin Sarukian at one point even kind of told her, hey, about my cardio. Something was asked about his cardio. He's like, hey, why don't we turn out the cameras and I'll show you some cardio. Fuck no, I would never let somebody talk like that to my wife. I don't care if it's for the views or for humor. But again, they're just whores selling out just to get the most views, despite of how embarrassing it might put them, despite of how much of a cuck it's gonna make her husband look like. Hey, we do this for the views and we're raking in money. And we find ourselves in this state of MMA journalism and media, where everybody's okay with whatever these fighters say, no matter how much of a scumbag thing was said, no matter their actions. Look at John Jones, right? All the stupid, shitty stuff. If John Jones was my neighbor and he wasn't famous, I wouldn't want to be chilling with him. I wouldn't talk to him. And neither would most of you guys. Characters like that, fucking keep them away, man. But almost nobody calls them out. And again, in fear of losing that big hit video when they're able to interview these fighters. They want to be in their good graces because their paycheck depends on it. And she's not the only one guilty of it. We got plenty of other more professional presence out there, like Damon Martin. Damon Martin, who's a little more casual, a little more professional about being an MMA journalist, but I've caught him in so many of these things where he strikes. He likes to stroke the ego of these fighters, despite how wrong they were, despite how shady they are. And he rarely calls them out because, again, just like Nina, it's best to keep my mouth shut and be in my best behavior. Otherwise, this guy or female won't give me an interview, and there goes my chances to monetize something. Now, before I go into Damon Martin, let me describe something to you guys. That I still listen to Damon Martin. I listen to all of them, and once in a blue moon, even Nina drama, I tune in. You know why? Because it's the bullshit that I like. It reminds me of that scene from the movie Training Day, when the young cadet first goes to that coffee shop to meet his sergeant, or whatever, Denzel Washington's character, and he's there with a newspaper, right, reading, and the cadet eventually kind of interrupts him like, hey, can we get going, or what's going on here? And Denzel Washington says something that just resonates so much with me now in my relationship with the MMA media and journalism. He tells them, look, I'm reading my newspaper. 90% of the things that are written here in the newspaper are bullshit, but it's my bullshit. It's my entertainment, so let me enjoy it. All right? I don't want anybody calling me out saying, oh, then why do you tune in? Because it's my bullshit and it entertains me. Anywho, some years back, I'm listening to the Damon Martin show. I think at that time he was with MMA Fighting. Might still be with him. I can't quite remember. But he interviewed Gilbert Melendez about Nick Diaz coming back, or Nate Diaz. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was Nick. And there's something that struck me so odd, and I was so disappointed in Damon Martin, was that he talked to Gilbert Melendez, who's very, very close friends with the Diaz brothers. I'm assuming that was as close as he could get an interview about the Diaz brothers as he can get, because the Diaz brothers, we all know, are kind of antisocial. They almost have like this social anxiety. They don't do too many interviews outside ones that are from the UFC, mandatory ones. And in this interview, they referenced the Jason Mayhem Miller scandal that happened years before that. Now, for those that don't know what I'm talking about, Jake Shields, who's also in the same camp as the Diaz brothers and a very close friend of the Diaz brothers, was in an organization called Strikeforce. I believe he had just defeated Dan Henderson. And he was in his post-fight interview, still there in the cage, when the next runner-up for the belt, Jason Miller, came up. Now, I don't remember Jason Miller doing anything out of the ordinary, anything aggressive, or anything disrespectful. But he went up there to pretty much start promoting his fight because it's a big payday. And it's a very common practice that we see often in the UFC and in any MMA or even boxing promotion. The whole Diaz camp was there with Jake Shields inside the ring. And when Jason tried getting in there to say like, hey, what's up with you and me? You know, I'm next. Without any provocation, he didn't provoke him. They started jumping him. Which, take those names away. If somebody is going up to you, let's just say you're hanging out with your friends at some bar, and your friend just kind of goes up to somebody, doesn't look like a big deal, and all of a sudden he starts getting jumped. That's a bitch move, right? From the people that are jumping your buddy. We all know this here in the hood. We all know this here in the ghettos, wherever you're from, especially then coming from Stockton. That's a bitch move. That ain't no gangster move. Come on. Instead of calling them out, instead of calling out the camp for a move like that, a scumbag move like that, he actually starts praising Gilbert and the team, saying things such as, well, I don't see it as anything bad, you know, that's your friend and you just wanted to protect him and blah blah blah. And I'm just thinking, what the fuck is this man thinking? What is he saying? This is so pathetic because it's so obvious you're kissing his ass so much just to be in good graces with him, hoping that Gilbert Melendez can relay the message like, oh, Damon Martin, no, he's cool, we'll do an interview with him, no, he's cool, he completely understands. What a fucking bitch. Absolutely spineless fucking MMA journalist and media. It's ridiculous to the point where I don't really like any of them because they're disingenuous. They're not offering anything really solid. Once in a while, yeah, you'll get a solid interview here and there, but I've noticed it's mostly from fighters that don't really get views because there's nothing to gain, but they're just trying to cover the sport in general. But mind you, don't let it be John Jones, because people like Damon Martin would even go, yeah, you beat up on your wife, but I understand, man, you know, sometimes things happen and that's everybody's business. Nobody should be getting in your business. Instead of calling him out like, hey dude, you got a shady ass fucking history, my man. Like, you're a great fighter, you're the GOAT, but come on, man, you're a scumbag. No, because John Jones gonna cut him off and there's no more million views videos that are gonna generate you $5,000, $6,000. Come on, guys, fucking have a spine to a certain degree, to a certain extent. There needs to be a threshold where you're like, nah, I just don't fuck with this guy. Or if you're gonna interview them, you gotta be kind of, you know, put your foot down a little bit. You might lose your chances of ever getting a interview with this guy that's gonna generate you a video that you can monetize. But come on, man. And last but not least, Mike Heck, who also I think has taken the mantle at MMA fighting. Recently, with Cyborg being in the limelight, from her fight that she just had in PFL. He was covering her, and just like many other people, because she's the hot commodity right now, right? It's going to generate views and clicks towards your website and whatever, you know, writing articles you post. Mike Heck, despite being a fan of the sport and knowing Cyborg's rocky relationship with promotions, which I made a video, and I hope I'm gonna link it, that you guys watch it so you guys can get some background about what I'm about to say. The Cyborg Ouroboros, where when things don't go right for Cyborg, she's quick to victimize herself and start tarnishing the reputation of a promoter or a promotion. And even though she's consistently found to be lying, she's quick to point her finger at her social media management team. Oh, they messed up, I'll talk to them. So she's quick to throw her team under the bus. Is she not keeping track, or does she not verify what people are gonna post about her in her own social medias? And then she wants to play naive, she wants to play ignorance, she wants to plead ignorance. No, come on, man. You're a shady ass business person as well, Cyborg. Anyways, so when Cyborg is out there talking about how the PFL is already mistreating her and they don't promote her and all kinds of nonsense that we've heard over and over and over again. Girl who cried wolf, anybody? Mike Heck still gives her the benefit of the doubt. Still says, yeah, you know, that's kind of messed up. Like, how about it's the other way around? History now tells us that she's the difficult one. History tells us that she lies and she twists narratives and tries to manipulate the MMA world to back her when she's the wrong. She's in the wrong. But people like Mike Heck, they don't want to call her out for that, because they want to make sure that this superstar here that generates decent numbers, that they can still keep getting interviews with her. Again, why? Drum rolls, please. So they can get interviews with her, generates views that they can monetize, because it's their source of income. Bunch of sellouts, right? The true definition of a sellout. Now, I'm a nobody, but I did tweet to Mike Heck about this, and instead of addressing what I said, the very points that I just mentioned about him playing naive and, you know, and well, I gotta give them the benefit of the doubt. This guy never addressed me. The only thing that he did was kind of counterattack me, like, well, who are you, and blah blah blah, and why are you coming at me so aggressive? I'm like, hermano, nobody's coming at you aggressive. You can't even tell a tone. I'm texting. It's a text via internet. I'm just saying, hey, why don't you call her out for her history, man? You shouldn't be falling for this, man. She's cried wolf for like the 15th time, and you're still running out there with your hunting rifle, pretending that you believe her. And this guy just never addressed it. So not only spineless has most of this social media and journalists become, but absolute cowards, where if you call them out on it, they're probably never gonna address you. They're never really gonna answer to you. Granted, they don't have to, but it'd be nice if we for once had more, because there's some honest ones out there, but it'd be nice if we had more honest social media and journalist presence that is not afraid to ask some difficult questions.